Welcome to AgriMinds, the podcast where we explore the intersections of personal growth and professional success in the ag industry. I'm Kacee, your host. Thank you for joining me as we dive in to the different strategies and insights that will help you level up your life and career. From mental health to leadership development, we're going to cover it all. So sit back and get ready to grow with AgriMinds. Welcome to another episode on the AgriMinds podcast. Today, I have Kayla Josefiak with me today. She is a Christian mental wellness coach, and I am so excited to have her. Welcome to the AgriMinds podcast, Kayla.
Thank you for having me. I'm super pumped to be here.
Me too. We met in Colorado it was Cultivate, which is like a mini version of Whitney Larson's Cultivating Courage conference, and hung out in the mountains for a couple of days. And I'm like, I love this chick. I've got to have her on the podcast. I love everything that you're doing. Tell listeners a little bit about who you are and what you do.
Yeah. So I'm Kayla Josefiak. We've had a good giggle before this about pronouncing my last name. I just have written off the fact that people are just not going to be able to pronounce it. So I am a Southwest Kansas farm wife. I have 4 little babies. We have row crop and cattle. I grew up in agriculture, but I grew up on the ranching spectrum. So we had a purebred bull sale every fall. I grew up like showing calves, just doing all the ranch life stuff. So marrying a row crop farmer, a man who absolutely loves being in the tractor, and like all of that stuff has been a huge shift for me. This mini win for me, I drove a grain cart for the first time a couple days ago, and I didn't mess up too bad. And he actually told me I did a good job. So that was a plus for me. But agriculture is just like super near and dear to my heart. It taught me work ethic. It taught me how to be. It taught me how to treat people. So that's just a little bit about myself. There's a lot more things that I could share, but I'm just so glad that you asked me to be on here. This is going to be so awesome.
Yes, I'm very excited for this one too. And I told Kayla right before we were recording, I was like, I feel like we could be trouble because we have very similar personalities and we tend to have the giggles this morning, I think. So where I wanted to focus though, which kind of shifts gears, is a little bit more serious. And, I talk about our personal growth quite a bit here on the AgriMinds podcast. And something that you do is you help people, specifically women in the agriculture and rural communities, with their mental health. And I know this is a serious topic and something that I think should be talked about a lot more. And so I thought today we could maybe just talk about how maybe too much of something could be toxic. And what I mean by that is I'm a professional development junkie. I love learning. I love, setting goals and kind of like chasing that next thing. But I know that can get toxic, and I know that can feel heavy and overwhelming. And I thought we could just talk about how that applies to not only our personal lives, but maybe our farming operations or the businesses that we own too. So maybe we could just kind of start off with, talk to me about why you got to where you are today. Like, why did you become a Christian mental wellness coach? And like, what does this mean to you?
So this journey actually started when I was 13 years old, when I officially got diagnosed with depression. And when you're 13 years old and you go to a doctor's appointment and they tell you you're depressed, you kind of wonder, what in God's name does that mean? I'm 13. Like, what do I have to be depressed about? And so I actually spent the next 9 years trying to figure out, why was Kayla depressed? All throughout high school, junior high, I was on probably close to 10 to 13 different medicines, trying to figure out like what was wrong with Kayla. And little did I know at the time that my mom was also going through the exact same journey. And so we've kind of walked this path together. But I had this huge epiphany in college. I was 22 years old, getting ready to graduate from Kansas State. I was getting ready to move across the state, be a teacher, and I got diagnosed with anxiety. And so I really dove into, what is this anxiety? Like, where does this come from? And I really found out that my anxiety actually caused my quote depression that they said that I had when I was 13. And so that kind of jump started my journey. I actually have always been one, like, I will tell you exactly how it is, good, bad, or otherwise. But I have always been one to share my struggles in my mental health journey. And I know that that's really uncomfortable for some people because we don't talk about mental health. Mental health is voodoo. It's got this negative stigma. And I have always, always, always felt incredibly comfortable sharing when I'm having a hard time, when I'm struggling. And so about 7 years ago, when I was pregnant with my second daughter, I wrote down on a piece of paper, I want to be an accountability coach. I want to be a life coach, but I had no idea what that meant at the time. I was a new mom. My oldest was 16 months old. I was pregnant again. So I had babies very close together and I had no idea what I was doing. And so it kind of just got put back on the shelf. And then some things have unfolded in the last couple of years. My last daughter that I had, she's my fourth, my last baby. She ended up in the NICU for 2 weeks, completely unexpected at 37 weeks because she had a pneumothorax, which is a collapsed lung, something that absolutely could have catapulted me into this massive depression, massive anxiety. But from that point where I knew I had anxiety at 22, I started diving into my faith, and it was a very private thing. I didn't want people to know, like, oh, Kayla reads the Bible and she's trying to get closer to God. And looking back now, it's really funny because I'm like, wow, why did you try to hide that? But when my last daughter got put in the NICU, I was so pissed at God. I was so mad. I was so angry. I was like, why did you take these moments away from me? I knew she was going to be my last baby. I have incredibly horrible pregnancies. And in that moment, I had no idea why. And so fast forward, my daughter was about 9 months old. And I wasn't in a great place with my parents, and I was still working on my faith, and I was still like starting to share more, getting more confident in it. And my dad got diagnosed with stage 4 cancer. And in that moment, when my dad got diagnosed with cancer, I didn't really feel as mad as I thought I would. Like, I thought I was going to be mad at God. I thought that my world was going to end because my dad had cancer. And it wasn't until you and I were at Cultivate in June, and I went and I got a tattoo on my wrist to signify that I had nursed all 4 of my babies. That chapter of my life was over. And in that moment of getting that tattoo and just like kind of talking to God through it all, I realized that my daughter went through her NICU stay. We spent those 2 weeks in Kansas City, and I was so mad, but God was calling me closer to him. I went through all of that because he knew I'd need that faith to lean on when my dad got diagnosed with cancer. And sorry, guys, if you're listening and crying makes you uncomfortable, but it's true. Like, God gave me that moment of my daughter being sick and me having to lean on her, or excuse me, having to lean on him. And I was pissed at God, but I was still talking to him. I was still praying every single time I was in that pumping cubicle. And I had no idea why he was prepping me and preparing my heart to lean on him even more. But in June of this last year at Cultivate, whenever I got this tattoo, and I walked back into the house after getting that tattoo, and women at the event were like, wow, Kayla, like, you seem like you're in a really good place, because I had previously shared with you all that I was struggling so bad. Like, why did Jenna have to go to the NICU? And I told everybody that night, like when we were talking, I was like, you guys, God was preparing my heart for this. And so then to fast forward, how did I ever get to this place of life coaching? And I tell people now, and it's crazy, but it's so true. My dad's cancer was one of the best things that ever happened for my faith. Because had my dad not got diagnosed with cancer, and I wouldn't have started like sharing my journey of my faith, I never would have taken this leap to think, oh, I can help women. I can help these people grow closer to Christ and get life coach certified and do these things. But it's just crazy looking back now. Like, my daughter going to the NICU helped me prep for my dad's cancer. My dad's cancer, which he's actually doing really, really well. Thank God for modern medicine in this regard. He's just this absolute faith life that I love. And his cancer diagnosis brought me to this point. So that is a very long-winded version of how I got to where I am right now.
I have chills, first of all. And I mean, you're absolutely right. I saw this in person, and your spirit of like, you changed colors almost, of like your epiphany, your realization of, wow, this is a level up for me. And I talk about, up leveling your life, up leveling your personal and your professional development, taking your career to the next level. But another thing that we do in the AgriMinds program is this thing called the Wheel of Life. And we look at our current reality, and we have all these different pieces of this pie that is like our physical attributes, our career, our family, our intimacy with our spouse, all these different things. And some of them we don't want to mention, right? Like you said, it's like, oh, we can't say that word out loud, or that doesn't, align with this, this, and this. And this being my podcast, I get to make the rules. So I'm going to talk about it. And I think it's so important to talk about them, because a lot of the times within agriculture, whether you're on a farm or a ranch or just working within this industry, what we do to earn an income is so directly impacted to our life. They're so intertwined. That's why I talk about the crossroads of personal and professional on this podcast. And so when we look at that Wheel of Life exercise, we say, okay, what areas am I pouring into? And which areas do I want to pour into that I'm not able to? And so we may need to like take some of those other areas down a notch or readjust some things. And in the farming industry, I hear a lot of people saying like, I'm praying for a bumper crop this year, or I, have to put my faith in God because like, I don't know if this crop is even going to come out of the ground. But then we don't ever really talk much past that. Like we say we're putting our faith in God. We say that we're trusting him with our finances, with our health, but then what? And we don't really talk about like, okay, well, if it doesn't go the way that we want to, what do we do? Right. So I'm on my knees praying to God, like, give us some rain or help this crop get out of the ground. But when it doesn't happen, we can tend to spiral really quickly. And that is something that I hope we can kind of equip you with today on some tools or some steps that maybe we can think about or consider when things don't go the way that we want. Like you mentioned, your daughter went into the NICU. At the time, you didn't see the big picture and you didn't know why or how this was going to prepare you for a bigger thing down the line. And it sucked in the moment, right? Like it probably knocked you to your knees. But looking back, you're like, that was exactly why I needed to go through that growth moment. And so, as a Christian mental wellness coach, like what is like one of your favorite tools or one of the most important tools that you use for people who have high hopes and nothing goes according to plan?
So a lot of how I coach and how I approach things, like, yes, I definitely have finite tactile things that I can tell or advise clients to do. But a lot of how I coach and what we talk about is really rooted in scripture. It's rooted in you and your relationship with God. And whether you like it or not, at the end of the day, that really is the only thing that matters, is like how you and God are. Like, are you good? Like, are you having issues, But one of the things that I always advise clients, whenever there's a moment of hard, whenever there's a moment of, what if this doesn't turn out the way it's supposed to? What if I don't get X, Y, and Z? I ask them, can you practice the pause? Can you allow your brain to actually slow down and catch up with what your body wants to do in that moment, or what you think you need to do? Because as human beings, we are so fast to react that we don't allow ourselves time to breathe. We don't allow ourselves time to work through the hard moments. And a perfect example of this would be lack of rain. It has been a drought in the Midwest. Our particular county has, in the past 365 days, unfortunately, been the super dark red D4. And it truly, truly has tested my husband's faith, my father-in-law's faith, my brother-in-law, my sister-in-law, all of our farming operation. And it's really, really easy in those moments to get really negative, to spiral, to immediately say, well, we're not going to get rain. We're not going to have a harvest. And I've actually caught myself asking my husband, hey, you know what? What would happen if we don't have a harvest this fall? He doesn't have a reaction right away because he's like, well, I've never actually allowed myself to think about if we didn't have a harvest at all. And that's whenever I remind people, you know, don't make something a catastrophe in your mind that A, you don't have any control over, and B, there's a really good chance that it's probably never going to happen as bad as you think it is anyway. One way that I love to rephrase stuff is, what if we don't have a harvest? Phrase it back to, even if we don't have a harvest. And that puts that positive spin, that positive mindset. Now, am I saying it'd be a good thing to not be able to cut crops this fall? Absolutely not. It would be awful. But there is a good and loving God that is providing for us in ways that we cannot even imagine. And so whenever you allow yourself to slow down, whenever you allow yourself to pause, whenever you allow yourself to actually think through things in a logical way, it takes away that feeling of fear, that feeling of dread, that feeling of anxiety, that like gut wrenching, can't breathe feeling. And it makes you realize, okay, I'm in this moment right now. And then you can ask yourself, what can I actually control? Because as much as I would love to be able to just like, hey, let's go put an inch on this field, we are so dependent on Mother Nature and what God gives us that, yes, you need to be praying for weather. You need to be praying for a good crop, but then you need to believe it. And you need to continue going back to God in every single situation, because, you know, it's kind of like when you tell a friend, oh, I'm praying for you. But are you? Like, are you actually taking those 5 minutes or 10 minutes and devoting your soul, yourself back to Christ and saying, hey, these are my desires of my heart. I want you to know my heart, because God really, truly wants us to be with him in absolutely everything. And it's been like this big theme lately on my social media and just talking with clients. It's like, he doesn't want us to do anything without him. And so if we think that we can do all the farming and we can do all the harvesting and we can do X, Y, and Z on the farm, but we don't need to include God in it, like he's going to give you a moment or put you in a place where it's like, oh, I do need God in this. So the very first thing I ask clients whenever they feel like they're spiraling, whenever they feel like there's a hard moment is, have you practiced the pause? Have you actually given yourself an opportunity to think about, is what I'm worrying about actually even possible? And if it is, even if that happens, then we'll go on from there.
I love that. We talk about pause, pivot, or push through about halfway through the Agri-Minds program. And the amount of like aha moments that people have in that week, where we've set goals at the very beginning in week 1. And then I think it's in week 6, we talk about like, okay, do we need to continue doing the thing that we've been doing? Does it still make sense? Now that we know this about ourselves, do we need to continue to push through? If not, do we need to maybe adjust some things and pivot? Or do we just need to stop, assess the situation, pause, and look at where we are right now? And just, one, either take the moment to reflect, or two, sit in where we are and just enjoy where we are. And I think back to what we talked about at the very beginning of this episode, I'm the kind of person who's go, 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 go. I go insane if I don't have something to chase. And so I'm constantly looking for new, I'm constantly looking for like the what's next. And so pausing for me in any aspect is very challenging. And so I'd love to hear more about like how people pause. Like, I don't know how to stop. I don't know how to relax and just be still and be in the moment. And I talk about be right there where your feet are, but I know I'm a hypocrite a lot of the times too, because it's so hard. Like, you don't even know that you're not present. What are your thoughts on that?
So I think that's a topic that all of America and quite frankly, most of the world needs to have, because we unfortunately live in a culture where, well, if you're not doing the next thing, then you're already behind. And I've seen this meme and this graphic, and I've seen it in Reels a bunch, where they talk about like, God's never going to hurry you. And I think one of the most profound examples I can give from my own life is, 7 years ago, like I wanted to be a life coach, but had I done it 7 years ago, if I would have tried to implement this 7 years ago, it would have failed because I wouldn't have had the life experiences that I have in the last 7 years. I would not have the faith foundation. And so when it comes to practicing the pause, when it comes to figuring out if you need to pivot or if you need to completely realign or whatever, I think, and again, a lot of my coaching is rooted in spiritual development. I think that's really, truly an opportunity for you to give that all to God. And so what is giving it all to God? Like, what does that mean? People get frustrated sometimes when they hear that. It can be as simple as, God, really, what do you want from me in this situation? And the coolest part is you might get an answer right there, or you might get an answer 5 years down the road. But it's in those moments of unknowing where you are given two options. You can either not know what his plan is, not know what the future holds, and become bitter and angry and this person that you weren't created to be, or you can not get your answer and still keep seeking him in absolutely everything. Because whenever you are, say, for instance, whenever you're farming and something's not working out right and you try a different way, well, you're not trying a different way that's going to sabotage yourself to make it worse. You're trying a different way to make it better, to be more successful. And so in every single moment where you're still trying, you're still putting forth that effort, because people in agriculture have it bred into them, like, we don't give up. But God wants you to seek him in absolutely everything that you do. So whether it's running a grain cart, or it's changing diapers, or it's marketing your grain at the co-op, God wants you to really see him in those moments. And it's hard because as humans, like, we want to figure it out. We want to figure it out right now. And, my husband is a huge example of, he has been through his own trials that before things were very hard, he felt hurried, he felt rushed, he felt no peace in his life. And now he's the guy who, he will send me a picture of like a beautiful sunset from the top of an irrigation pivot. And I mean that from like the most sincere way. Like, he'll look at it and he'll be like, look at this, Kayla, like, this is our life. And just him being able to even like practice that pause and just send me the picture. He knows that I'll love it just as much as he does, but he sees God in those moments. And he's not one to like text me and be like, I saw God today. Like, he doesn't do that, but he'll send me those pictures, and it just helps me realize, like, hey, knowing that what you have is a blessing, and knowing that if you're going through those really hard things, whether it's poor crops or poor harvest or land disputes or anything that is hard, just know that, like, God's going to find a way to make it good. He really, truly is. He loves you through the really good things, and he loves you through the really bad things. But there is always, always something that you can truly be thankful for, even in the hard moments. And it takes a mindset shift. It takes not allowing the noise of this world, not allowing the busyness, the competition, all of these things that are so human nature to us, but they're not of this world. And God is truly asking us to become something not of this world, because this is not our ultimate home. Like, this is just this pit stop on the way. So that is a kind of like a philosophical approach to it, because, you can wake up every morning and either choose to see the bright colors and the happiness, or you can choose to see the gray and the black and the hard times. But it really is a choice. Like, this is not, nobody's telling you you have to be grumpy today. Like, no. Now, people might tell you you need to be happy, but at the end of the day, like, when you lay your head down on that pillow, you know that tomorrow is a new day, that his mercies are new each day. And so we're given that opportunity to view the things that we have, the situations that we have, in a positive light or in a negative light. And it's completely up to us.
Woof. I was reading the book called Outwitting the Devil by Napoleon Hill a couple months ago. And in that book, one of the things that he mentioned was our mind and space, just anything that has capacity, needs to be filled with something. And it can be intentionally filled with positive, or if you don't intentionally fill it with positive, it will just default to negative.
Yeah.
And I think it's so cool that your husband is like, I'm taking the moment to just say, okay, I'm out here possibly working on a broken pivot that could be something I'm cussing right now, but I'm looking up and I'm seeing the sunset and I'm choosing to make this moment, this thought, this piece in time a positive one, and then sharing that with you. And I think that's something that we can, just kind of note. But something I want to go back to is, you're like, we need to seek God in all that we do, but bolding the point of first, seek him first. And where I have screwed up a lot and where I see a lot of farmers is, I'm going to plant this crop and then I'm going to say, okay, God, help me get this crop to grow. And I do that in my business too. Okay, God, here's my plan. Help me make it come to fruition. When actually what I am trying to shift to is, help me align my wants and needs to what your wants and needs are. And God, if this is the plan that you want me to have for this field, like, help me make that the plan. Not, this is my plan, this is the crop I'm going to put in there, now help me make it happen. It's seek him first and, kind of ask him, like, what do you want me to do on this field this year? Does it need to go into corn? Do I need to do a bean this year? Or maybe I need to like do something completely different and start growing wheat or alfalfa for the first time. Like, do I need to start incorporating cover crops? Like, what's your plan for this soil? So that way I can optimize my resources. So that way I can, get the most bang for my buck. Like, help me make this your plan and seek him first. And then something else that you mentioned was talking about fears and things. And I heard this acronym for fear, and I think I've mentioned it on previous episodes, but the acronym is false evidence appearing real. And there's so many times where, like you've mentioned, I thought that I was afraid of this because Farmer Joe down the road is doing this. So I'm fearing competition, or I'm fearing that I'm not doing enough, or, oh, wait, I did things differently in my operation. That must mean it's wrong. And so you've got all these fears kind of building up and redirecting your steps. And you're kind of comparing, like the way you do things, who you are, how your operation is ran, all those things. And at the end of the day, you just got to break that down and say, is this an opinion or is this fact? And what is this fear really stemmed from? What are your thoughts on that?
Well, I think that that's awesome, because I think that we live in a world that is so fear-based. There is so much fear mongering when it comes to food labels. There's fear mongering whenever it comes to land ownership, like all of these things. And what it does is it keeps us busy. It keeps us occupied. It keeps us not seeking the things that we should be seeking first. And I actually saw this quote the other day. I can't remember who said it, but I heard it on a podcast, and it said, if the devil can't make you sin, he can make you busy. And so I think that sometimes we stay busy out of fear, because if you're not busy, then, oh, well, I'm going to actually have to think about these thoughts that I have, or I'm going to have to think about these concerns that I have, or I'm going to have to think about like what the future is going to look like 5 years down the road. And, and there might be some people listening to this and be like, well, I don't know how we're going to, pick what we're going to plant based on what God tells us. But I truly believe like God has given us the tools to make informed decisions, to make smart decisions, and do what we know how to do because we trust in him. And so I really feel like there is a clarity that comes whenever you aren't living a life in fear. There's like a clarity and an internal peace that only you can experience, but it can't come from something of this world. Like, fear is that thing that can slingshot you into horrible decisions, or it can slingshot you into amazing decisions. And one way that I know from a personal point of view is when I started this life coaching journey, my dad asked me, he goes, well, what if this doesn't work? What if it doesn't? Because my dad's 65, and what's a life coach? Like, it was a very different thought to him. He loves me and he supports me, but he didn't really understand it. And I looked at him, and without missing a beat, I said, even if this doesn't turn out the way that I have it all planned out in my brain, I know that God is in this every single step of the way. And so it could turn out even better. Like this could be something that I don't even expect at all. And it could turn out to be something even better than what I have planned out on this piece of paper. And, I easily 5 years ago, 7 years ago, could have been like, well, if it doesn't work, then I'll just like move on to the next thing. But it was that growth and that faith development that I've been working on so hard just for myself, that I was able to say with absolute confidence, you know what, if it doesn't work out, there's going to be good in it somewhere. And it's so simple. And I always tell my clients, like, I am not solving quantum physics for you. Like, this is not changing the world, but it is simply taking your mind and working and training it and literally wiring the neurons to see the good, see the positive. Don't let that fear creep in. And if you have that fear, feel it and then tell it to go away. Like, it's not something that we don't need to be afraid of fear. Because I always tell like my daughter, whenever she's getting ready to play basketball, she's always like, Mom, I'm so nervous. And I'm like, yeah, that's because you care. If you weren't nervous and you weren't afraid a little bit, then like, are you really invested? And so maybe looking at that fear as, hey, you know what? I love this land. I love my farm. I love this ranch. Like, I want it to be successful. So acknowledge it, but don't let it control you.
Yes. I think growing up, I don't really know where it came from. I don't know if my dad said it or if it was just something I assumed, but activity equaled productivity in my mind for a long time. And I remember like growing up, if we were sitting on the couch or something on a Saturday morning, dad would say, if you got time to be sitting around, you got time to be doing blah, 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 blah. Like we would clean gutters or paint the grain bins or chop wood or something just to be out and about. And it almost felt like if you were on the couch and you weren't working your butt off doing some kind of labor, you were lazy, and that said something about you. And so I think that's where that stemmed from for me, of my go, 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 go now. Because if I rest, that must mean I'm lazy. That must mean I'm not productive. That must mean I don't care, or I'm not invested in my home, or I'm not invested in my business if I take time to stop. And I cannot tell you how many people I talk to, both my one-on-one clients or the people in Agriminds, are, I can't leave the dairy. Are you kidding me? Like, who's going to milk the cows? Okay, hire somebody. Or, they've got systems in place. I don't own a dairy. I don't know all the things, but God forbid you take 2 days off, like out of 60 years, you know what I mean? Like, it's so important to pause. And even if it's just for an hour, right? And in the keynote of balancing work and family that I give one of those pointers of like, even if it's just taking an actual lunch break, that can help you with the slowing down, actually pulling over at a rest stop and eating your fast food in the truck while not driving. Even if it's that's one 15-minute break of being intentional and recharging and refueling both your body and your mind. And I just think so many people have a hard time with that because they are wearing several hats. They don't have the resources to hire it out. They don't have the means to say, okay, I can invest in a system that's going to milk these cows for me, or, hire another hired hand so I can go out for the weekend. Like, maybe that doesn't exist for them. And so I always encourage, like, maybe it's a 10-minute break. Maybe it's shutting your phone off for 10 minutes before you go to bed, rather than scrolling on TikTok for 2 hours when you should actually be going to bed. Like, being very, very intentional. Is there anything else that, if a listener was like, I've never thought about being mindful of these things before. I've never thought about like, oh, I don't have to constantly chase what's next, or, oh, I've never thought about putting God first in my farming operation. Like, what's a piece of advice that you can give for them as, like, if this is their very first time thinking about or exploring this thing, like what's a first step for them?
So it's funny that you asked that, because I just pulled my Instagram community about, hey, how's your relationship with time? Like, do you like it? Do you never have enough? Are you someone who's always late? There are people in my life, we'll tell them to be at an event 30 minutes before everybody else, so that hopefully they show up 15 minutes after. And, and And I really, I urge my clients and I tell people, how do you view your time? Do you view it as a resource? Do you view it as is it money to you? Is your time important? Because in agriculture, there is always like moving on to the next thing, but I urge people not to view time in the negative light, not to view like how we view this concept of time. And this gets a little bit like existential where we're talking about time as a resource, but it actually is like this thing. And so a phrase that I love and I dive into a lot more in coaching calls and like with clients is you have just the right amount of time to accomplish the goals that you want to. You really truly do. When you actually allow yourself to slow down and to say, hey, I've got just that right amount of time, your whole relationship with time improves. You would not believe the number of random harvest meals, workouts, getting a couple loads of clothes folded that I have snuck in the past 6 months since I started my trainings and my certification courses. And do I feel like I'm like more efficient? Of course, but I also feel like I'm not as, for lack of a better term, like super grumpy, bitchy about it. Like I'm not like, oh, I only have 15 minutes. No, like I have 15 minutes. You know how much crap I can get done in 15 minutes, especially when like my kids are outside playing or they're on the combine. The other day, here's an example. I had a Zoom call at 10:30 in the morning. And then I knew after that Zoom, I was going to have to get everybody fed. And I was thinking, oh crap, like it's 10 o'clock. I need to get something done. And then I remember thinking, no, I have 30 whole minutes. So what did I do? I whipped up a lasagna in 30 minutes and it baked while I was on my Zoom call and we had food ready to go right after. But if I'd have been like old mindset, it was, oh my God, I'm never going to get that done in 30 minutes. And so I urge you, like the phrase, you have just the right amount of time. It is so simple, but so profound. And it really, truly does make those things that you actually want to accomplish, you actually can do it. Like, it's not just like, oh, I have this list of to-do things and I'm never going to get them done. No, segment it out. Tell yourself like, hey, I have just the right amount of time to get this bin swept out. I have just the right amount of time to get that load of corn to the co-op. Like whatever it may be, when you view time as an abundance and positive, that will trickle down into the rest of your life because like I've said before, whether we like it or not, this society thrives on busyness. This society thrives on fear. And if you take control of a resource that you have of time, your whole entire outlook on life can change. It really, truly can.
I think the biggest learning thing for me over the last couple of years is to look at things and resources as neutral, right? Like money doesn't have feelings. It's not good or evil. It's not positive or negative. It's not happy or sad. Money and time and all these materialistic things, which money is, time is not materialistic, but time doesn't have feelings. You know what I mean? And so how do we feel about it? That's what we can change. Knowing what we can control, knowing what we can change, that's the thing that we need to work on. And when I started to look at time and money differently, but I'm gonna focus on time, instead of it being time management and me trying to control time, I'm looking at it from a priority management because I have the exact same amount of time every single day. I can't pick and choose. I want more time or less time. I need to rearrange the things that I am doing to get them done in the order that I want to get them done. So I have priority management. And one of the best tools, which I will send a link in the show notes, but one of the best tools that I had is this hexagon timer. And anytime that I am getting ready to do something, I flip it. So like, okay, I am going to give myself 15 minutes, even though I may have 3 hours ahead of me that are wide open. I am going to crush this in 15 minutes because there's other stuff I want to get done today. So I'm going to get as much done as I can in 15 minutes. So I'm going to check my emails. I'm going to give myself 5 minutes to get through all my emails. I want to clean the house. I'm going to give myself 30 minutes to get through this house. I want to, fix dinner. I'm going to give myself this amount of time to fix dinner. And now I know that doesn't technically apply. Like if you're out working ground or if you are running the combine or planting, that's viewed a little bit differently as well. But I can look at the things that are in between there, right? How much time am I going to spend on the phone with John Deere trying to find a part? You know what I mean? If that call has gone on past 20 minutes, who can I call to delegate this task to? Or if I know that it's going to take me probably an hour round trip to deliver a load of grain, and I have these other things that I have to get done first, and the elevator's only open until X amount of time during the day, I need to look at, okay, if I want to get this done on this time, on this day, because the markets are just right, I may need to delegate some tasks, or I know this is the thing I have to get done first. And if the timing lasts longer than I want it to, I got the thing done that I needed to get done in that day. And I don't feel guilty about those other things being pushed out a little bit further. And that's something I use with the Working Genius a lot, is trying to figure out, okay, I want to get all the cool stuff done first because it's exciting, or I'm gonna get all this bad stuff done first because I can end my day on a good note. Like, we work through what we do in our day and how do we say, okay, I want to have the most intention as I possibly can behind my day. I want to look at things through a positive light, which also ties into how do I do things that excite me and fill my cup up. And that way I can be home in a positive note, come home to my family with my cup full. I'm feeling good about the decisions that I've made in my work. And I can look at things with a positive mindset versus that negative, because of all the ripple effect of, I didn't get my work done, this didn't go the way that I want to. It is so all intertwined. And I just think that when you can master, or at least start practicing the attempts of working in a priority management mindset, doing things with a positive outlook, like reframing the things that you say to yourself, or the things that you look at and say, you know what, this is really sucky. It really didn't need to rain today because I got to do this, and this. Well, like you said, this one rain may be teaching you a sense of patience that's going to help you in an event down the road. Or you never know what the experience that you're having right now and how that's going to teach you and help you grow in so many other areas of your life. I went on a huge rabbit hole there, but any final thoughts?
I laughed when you said about the rain, because like, you know, they always say, like, don't ever pray for patience because God's going to send it to you in a way that you might not enjoy. And I giggle because any moms listening, I got my lessons in patience with my oldest daughter. Like, she is me at 7 years old. And I'm like, oh, wow. Okay. Well, here's my lesson in patience. But yeah, I think there's always opportunities for seeing the positive in every single situation. There really, really, truly is. And as somebody who has had very, very dark days and very, very hard mental health days where I really questioned the worth of my own life, you know what? I look back on those now and I realize, like, God was with me in those moments. And if I wouldn't have experienced that, I probably wouldn't be where I am right now either. Like, I would not be seeking God in absolutely every moment and every day. And yeah, it's just crazy. Like, he really knows what he's doing. Like, God, he's good. He's good. Yeah. Yeah. Shocker, spoiler alert.
Well, what you're doing is amazing. And I know that you're impacting so many lives within our industry. And I just want to say thank you for leaning in on what you've been felt called to do, and not being shy about it. Like, you've unapologetically taken hold of this plan that God has laid out for you. And you're like, all right, let's do this thing. I don't care what people think about it. I don't care, if it looks different than other people and their opinions, but I'm going to lean into it and I'm going to do it. And I just want to say thank you for doing that. And also for joining us on the Agri-Minds podcast. If someone wants to follow along with you or connect with you or learn more about what you're doing, how can they find you?
The easiest way to find me would be probably on Instagram. It's just at Kayla Josefiak, which you'll see in show notes how to spell that. I'm not going to spell that for everybody, but my Instagram's at Kayla Josefiak. I also have a website, www.kaylajosephiak.com. And that's where I mostly do most of my correspondence. I do have Facebook, but I don't know. I don't do as much on Facebook. That's just not really my vibe. That was a cool thing when I was in college, but now I'm like, oh, okay. So I am on there too. But if you want to follow me on there, I have contact information and all that kind of stuff. And yeah, I'd be excited to have you follow along.
Oh, thank you so much, Kayla. I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.